So this is, I'm totally annoyed right now because I just did a lecture for you guys, this one, and it stopped recording me at 2 seconds and I didn't realize it and I went on for like 15 minutes. Wonderful. So here's my second attempt and I'm not going to get mad because there's bigger problems in the world. So this is chapter 13, Water Resources, flip number 2. And what I mentioned before, which you didn't hear because it didn't record, was I elaborated more on aquifers. Right here is a picture of the Ogallala Aquifer. And the Ogallala Aquifer extends from South Dakota all the way to Texas. This is the largest aquifer in the United States. Um, and there's a problem with it because it's being water withdrawal is exceeding water recharge as a result of development because of impermeable surface and all that, which I talked about in flip 1, and also agriculture. And so as a result, there's been some subsidence going on. I did it. And subsidence looks like this. It's basically when land collapses as a result of nothing underneath it or very little matter underneath it being able to hold what is on the surface. So all of this weight of the homes, the roads and all this, basically there's not enough support underneath it. Well, the support or lack of support is a result of the overdraft of aquifers in this particular case because we're withdrawing water at a rate that exceeds recharge. And so there's hollow space under there that isn't sturdy, strong enough as a footer for the overlying weight. So that's a common problem with overdraft of aquifers is the collapse of the land, or what we call subsidence. Some other areas in the world that also have aquifers and at the same time are experiencing shortages of water in them or overdrafts include not only the Ogallala but Saudi Arabia, India, Northern Africa, Southern Europe, parts of Mexico, and of course the Middle East. So these are areas that are experiencing the same thing. It's important to know that. So when we overdraft an aquifer, basically the water table drops, and as a result, then the not only does the land give way or can give way, but it also affects all the other organisms that depend on that water. Mind you, not many species live in groundwater aquifers, but what we do need to know is that our surface water, like rivers and lakes, are actually fed by aquifers or groundwater. So aquifers and groundwater aren't their own thing. They actually are connected to surface water bodies like rivers. So if there's a drop in water in an aquifer, that's going to have an effect on the water level of surface water. So there's a key thing here that we need to make note of. Number one is that groundwater, the kind we can't see, we can't really keep up to date with the level of water in it. But we can see the effects of overdraft of aquifers and surface water because they're right there. They're unconfined. So it's important to know that difference. So when we have this overdraft, not only does it cause this, like this picture, subsidence, but it also affects organisms that live in rivers and lakes that depend on that water and that water level to survive. So the effects are the water table is lowered, the aquifer is depleted, subsidence can occur, then intrusion of salt water can occur in aquifers that lie adjacent to saltwater. So this was from my previous lecture here. This is Florida. At the tip of Florida is the Everglades. The Everglades are a real unique ecosystem, you guys. It's a freshwater ecosystem. A lot of times biologists will refer to the Everglades as a river of grass. Saltwater is actually, or freshwater is actually moving south, so it's flowing south through here. And it is home to, Everglades National Park is home to the most endangered species in a national park in a given area. So the National Park Service actually refers to the Everglades as the most endangered national park. I could just name a few of these endangered species. The Florida panther, which is a top predator, the American crocodile, and the Florida manatee. All of them are endangered species and live in this pristine park. So at the tip of Florida, right down in here, is the Everglades. And again, like I said, the Everglades, if we were to enlarge this, is moving south. So it's a freshwater river of grass that's moving south, and all the organisms that live here are dependent on that freshwater system. Now, we all know Florida, there's more and more industry. There's more and more people moving there for retirement and so on. There's lots of people that vacation there. So the demand on freshwater is huge. So when you have more and more withdrawal of fresh water, not only from the Everglades, but also from the aquifers. There's aquifers all over in Florida. There's more and more withdrawal of that, so obviously that's going to have an effect not only on the aquifers and then subsidence occurring, land giving way, but it's also going to have an effect on the freshwater ecosystems like the Everglades, which are dependent on the sources of water from the ground, like the aquifers there, to provide that flow of water through there. So when you have less water here, when there's less water somewhere and there's water adjacent to it, water will move to where there isn't water. Like a basement, for example, if your basements have flooded recently or whenever. So what we see all over here is salt water. So what is naturally going to happen? That salt water is going to creep into where the water is being withdrawn, and so that is called saltwater intrusion. Saltwater intrusion is a problem in Florida. It's also a problem in Long Island, New York, because Long Island, that island and the people that live there and the businesses that are there are totally dependent on an aquifer that lies underneath this island. Because of overdraft, salt water is starting to intrude into the groundwater or the aquifer in Long Island as well. So that's important to know. Did I skip something here? Okay. Chemical contamination of groundwater toward wells. Okay, another issue with groundwater, I talked before how it moves. There could be underground storage tanks of hazardous waste somewhere, and we all know that water moves in the ground. So if water moves past these hazardous waste facilities that are underground, then it can carry with it contamination. And so that can move through. So it's called groundwater contamination, which is very expensive to clean and almost not worth it, because once it's contaminated, you can't get down there and just clean it. You have to use more chemicals, more water to clean it out and then recharge it, which is very costly. Another problem with it, the overdraft per se, is that if you have less water and more pollution, it's going to make that water that's in there more contaminated, if that makes any sense. So that's that. And we also talked about reduced stream flow and the effects of that on ecosystems. And this is important here, the fact that excessive water removal is much more visible in surface water bodies compared to aquifers, especially confined aquifers, because you just can't see it, okay? And I'm going to end it there, just because I want to show you a 6-minute video and I have no idea how much time I have left, so I'm going to make that flip lecture number 3, okay?